Today it says graphing using x and y intercepts. So today I'm going to show you an easier way to graph lines. So instead of needing the slope and the intercept, if we can just find our two intercepts, then we can just plot those 2 points only and connect them with a ruler. Okay, so it says, what does it mean to intercept a pass in football? Then it goes on to say the path of the defender crosses the path of the thrown football. So they're just explaining to you what an intercept is, because in math, so in algebra, we're going to have x and y intercepts. So it just says, what are they? Well, they're exactly what they sound like. The x-intercept is wherever our line crosses the x-axis, and our y-intercept would be wherever the line crosses the y-axis. Okay, you guys can go ahead and turn the page. So everything that I just said to you is actually right here on this next slide. So there's your definition of x-intercept, and here's your definition of y-intercept. And then there's a picture that shows you what exactly the x and the y-intercept look like. Okay, I do think it's extremely important to keep in mind that if you're trying to find the x-intercept and you write it as an ordered pair, the x, wherever it crosses the x, that's the number that goes first, and then the second number automatically is 0. When you are looking for x, y is 0. Okay? Is everybody good with that? Like, you have to remember that. Same thing with the y-intercept. If you're looking for where it crosses the y-axis, so right here, it wouldn't go left or right at all. So the first number is 0 this time. And then wherever it crosses the y at, that would be your second number in the ordered pair. Okay, so whenever you're finding intercepts, one of the numbers should always be 0, and it's always the other one. So if you're looking for x, y is 0, and if you're looking for y, x is 0. Okay? Got it? Okay. So now you guys are just going to see some pictures, okay? Here's a graph. This line right here is the one that they plotted. Okay, normally I would have arrows on it, but they're just showing you, okay, here's your x-axis, here's your y-axis. So if we were trying to find the x-intercept right here, it crosses at the positive 5. So when they wrote their ordered pair, the 5 goes first and then the y is automatically 0. Same thing with your y-intercept. It crosses down here at -1, so that's the y value. And then they just put that 0 in first because when you're looking for y, x is always 0. Okay, so now you guys typically, like, I might give you a picture and I might just say, what's the x-intercept? And you guys would just have to tell me that ordered pair. I might ask you for the y-intercept and you guys would have to tell me that ordered pair. I might also, instead of giving you a picture, I might give you an equation, and you guys could find the two intercepts and then plot them just like they did here. Okay? Still good? Okay, turn it. Right here, this is the slide that they're saying is the most important. It does give you the definition again, but what the most important piece of this for you to remember is that when you are looking for the x-intercept, y has to equal 0, and when you're looking for the y-intercept, your x has to be 0. So I know I've already said that a couple times, but that is the most important part, or the most important thing that you have to remember about our intercepts. So if I were to write this as an ordered pair, what would that look like? Is it 2, 0 or 0, 2? It should be 2 because that's the x, and that always goes first, and then the y is automatically 0. No, it's right there on the 2. I will never give you ordered pairs where there'll be decimals. Yeah, no, it's not. It's good. All right, how about this one? the y-intercept. How would I write that as an ordered pair? The 0 goes first with y-intercepts, and then wherever it crosses the y, that goes second. So you guys have to remember it's x comma y every time. And then down at the bottom, I mean, they just gave you a whole bunch of examples, and you'll notice that anytime it was like an x-intercept, notice how the y is always a constant. It's always 0, never changes. The only thing that's going to change is your x. And then same thing when you're looking for y-intercepts, the x's are always 0, and then the y value can vary just based on what we were looking for. Questions so far? All right. Turn it over, or turn the page. Okay, so now instead of me giving you a picture, I am going to give you an equation. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see this very well. You might want to write over it. It printed pretty light. But the equation in that box says 3x minus 4y equals 12. If I were to ask you right now, what is the x-intercept? What they want you to do is when you're looking for x, we're going to plug in the number 0 where the y is. Okay? So do this over here. You have 3x minus 4y equals 12. And if I'm looking for the x-intercept, I'm going to do what they just told me. If I'm looking for x, x has to stay in the equation, but the y, we get to take out and put what number in its place. We're going to plug in a 0 where that y is. What happens when you multiply a number by 0? Doesn't it just go away? So did we really even need to write that term at all? No. We could have just written 3x equals 12. And then how would I solve that one-step equation? Divide by 3. So x equals 4. And if I said to you, okay, now that we know the x-intercept is at the 4, you guys would then write that as 4 comma 0. X goes first, y goes second. Okay, so here's a shortcut. You guys wanting to know the shortcut? If they're telling you to find the x-intercept, if I know that by plugging in a 0 right here, that term's going to disappear, couldn't I have just covered that up? If I'm looking for x, I could cover up the y term, and then what does this equation now say? 3x equals 12. And isn't that the equation we ended up solving? Okay, so whatever one you're looking for, just cover up the other term and get rid of it. Okay, and the reason we're allowed to do that is because we're plugging in a 0 anyway, which is going to make that term disappear altogether. So we're going to do the same thing over here, but this time we're going to solve it for the y-intercept. Okay, so for your notes, I'm going to show you that I'm going to plug in a 0, but this time, where am I going to plug the 0 in? For the x. So I would do 3 times 0 minus 4y equals 12. And then what happens right here out front? Yeah, this just kind of disappears. And we have negative 4y equals 12. Wouldn't I have gotten that if I had just covered up my x term in the beginning? Yeah, if I cover up the x term, look, it says minus 4y equals 12. So that means negative 4. And we divide by what number? Negative 4. So y is equal to what? Negative 3. And when you write that as an ordered pair, this time the 0 goes first, and then whatever you just found, that goes second. Yes, Kylie? Yes. So when you guys look down at the bottom, they're just showing you the exact same work that I just showed you. I wanted you to see it actually worked out first, and then you just know that down here, I showed it again. So that way you guys could see it twice, okay? And then the benefit of doing that is that if I gave you a blank graph, all you guys would have to do is go to the 4 on the x-axis, and you would plot that point. Then you would go to the -3 on the y-axis, and then we would just put a ruler down and we would connect them. Now, previously when we had done some graphing in here, did I ever let you guys only graph 2 points? No, not if more fit. If we are graphing using the intercepts, there's only 2 intercepts. So that time, like at that time, you could then just plot those 2 and be done. Okay? But that's the only time. You guys good? Still? Okay, turn it over. We're going to find some x and y intercepts right here. All right, so for this first one, everybody look up. Look up. If I'm looking for the x, I don't know why they did this, because the x-intercepts they put second. I'm not exactly sure why. These over here are going to be the y-intercepts, because they start with 0. But I'm going to go ahead and find the x-intercept first. So just to save on some space here, if I cover up the y, what equation would I write? Okay, so 2x equals 6, and how would I solve that? Divide by the 2. What do we get? X equals 3? So then all you guys would have to do is come over here and stick a 3 right there in that set of parentheses. It should be 3, 0. Okay, let's do the y. So for the y-intercept, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to cover up this x term. What does this say? 3y equals 6. So 3y equals 6, and how would I solve that? Divide by 3. I'm still on the first one. What's 6 divided by 3? 2. So then my y-intercept would be 0, 2. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then I'll have you guys do these bottom 2. Okay, so for this one, if I'm looking for x, I'd cover up the -4y, and what does that say? -3x equals 24, and we would just divide by what number? So what does x equal? -8. Okay, make sure you go over here and put it in this box, because it's the x-intercept. And then for the y-intercept, what would we write? If I cover up the x, what's left up there? What kind of 4? -4y equals 24. Okay? So we'd go through and divide by what number? -4. And what's 24 divided by -4? -6. So that one would go over there. Okay, I want you guys to go ahead and try those bottom 2 for me. I know there's not a ton of room left over here, but you could work stuff out over in this margin on the left, or even down here at the bottom, you've got some blank space. I just want you guys to try these 2, doing the exact same thing I did on the top 2, because, you know, I can't do all of them for you, so you guys need to make sure you're able to do some of those on your own. Okay, what'd you guys get for that third one down? 0, 12 and 5, 0. Good. Okay, hang on. So that, I went ahead and showed the work for it over here. So there's my x, the 12x equals 60, which gave me 5. And here's 5y equals 60, which gave me 12. So then you put the 12 and the 5 in there. And then the bottom two, did you guys get negative 10 and 8? So for the bottom two, 5x equals 40, you divide by 5, you get an answer of 8. And then negative 4y equals 40, divide by negative 4, and you get y equals negative 10. Okay, then down at the bottom, this is just another example. It says graph the equation 4x plus 8y equals 24 using the x and the y intercepts. Okay, so I'm not going to keep going through all the steps, but right here they went ahead and showed you, and again, sorry about this, this kind of shifted when it printed. This should be over here. But if we're looking for x and I cover up the 8y, look at the equation. 4x equals 24. I divided by 4 and I got an answer of 6. So 6, 0. And then this one over here, if I cover up the x term, we had 8y equals 24. So 24 divided by 8 would be 3, and it'd be 0, 3. Okay, so that's the same process we did with all four up here. But then what they did is if you turn the page, it was, the x was 6, so it was 6, 0, and then the y was 0, 3. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is I want you to plot those 2 points. 6, 0, we would go to, so this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. We would go to the 6 on the x, which is right here, and you put a dot. Do it, please. I need you guys doing this. Plot 6, 0, and then 0, 3. You'd start at the 0 and you just go up 3. I know the lines are pretty light, but you should be able to see it enough to figure out where they would go. And then I didn't pass out rulers, but you guys should have, if you don't have something to use as a straight edge, the rulers are over there on that table if you want to go grab one. There are plenty of things that you guys can use as like a straight edge, but the ruler would probably be the best one. I'm just going to do this real quick using this. It might not be perfect, but yeah, that wasn't great. I wrote more on my paper than I did this. But then you could just connect those two and put arrows on each end. So whatever you do, don't freehand it, because freehanding them, they end up not looking that great. Now I know I just had you guys do that, and then down at the bottom they showed it again. So hopefully yours looks the same as this one. So then after you have those 2 points plotted and you've connected them, you could go ahead and turn the page. Okay, this one, they've given us a picture and they just want you to identify the 2 intercepts. Where is it crossing the x-axis at? 2. So that would be 2, 0 automatically. And then where is it crossing the y-axis at? -4. So for that one, the -4 has to be where the y would be, which is second, and then you would just stick a 0 in first. And the slide down at the bottom shows you the answer, which we just did. So it's just the same thing twice. Turn the page. Okay. This time they gave us a different equation, 4x plus 3y equals 12. So walking through this again, if they want us to find the x-intercept, we cover up y. What does that equation say? 4x equals 12. So you guys can see that right here. And then we would just divide by 4, getting an answer of x equals 3, which would be what? 3 comma 0. And supposedly they plotted this here, which means this line right here must be our x-axis. And then the dark one that's going up and down, that's the y-axis. When they went to go find the y-intercept, you know, when I do it, I just do the shortcut. So if I'm looking for y, I'm going to cover up 4x and look at this equation. Positive 3y, so positive 3y equals 12. We would divide each side by 3, and y equals 4. So that would be 0 comma 4. And then you notice they went up 4 and put a dot. So there were our two intercepts, and then they just put a ruler down and connected them. Down at the bottom, this is just a reminder to you, if you guys ever have y equals, let's say, positive 4, you would graph that at the 4 on the y-axis, and then it would just be a horizontal line. So anytime you have y equaling a number, just a constant, you plot that on the y-axis, and then you just go straight across. For x, if you have x equals a number, this is the only time you plot on the x-axis, because these are your two intercepts, and then you just make it vertical. You go straight up and down. So that's just a reminder. We've talked about that before, but it's been a while. Okay. Quick review here at the end, and then like I said, I'm going to give you guys the review for the quiz, and I'm going to have you guys work on that for a little bit. Okay, so it says an x-intercept is the x-coordinate of a point where a graph crosses the x-axis. At the x-intercept, what's the value of y? 0. It's the opposite. When you're looking for x, y is 0, and when you're looking for y, x is 0. Okay, so a y-intercept is the y-coordinate of a point where a graph crosses the y-axis, and at the y-intercept, the value of x is 0. To graph a line using the intercepts, you just need to know the x and the y-intercept, right? That's all you need. Then it just says, like, how many ways do you know how to graph now? So let's talk about it. We did slope-intercept form. We also did point-slope form. Those were the first two forms that we learned how to graph. Those are the two easiest ones. Okay, then we did standard form. So that was when x and y were on the same side. So can you guys look up here, please? For standard form, it was, like, I'm just going to make one up. 4x, I'm going to do the 4x plus 3y equals 12. There were two steps that we had to do in order to get this y by itself. And you guys had to do that, because what our goal was we took standard form and we turned it into slope-intercept form. That's what we did. Sorry, I'm still writing down this. That was point slope form. So that was another easy one. What term do I have to move first for this one? The 4x. So if it's positive 4x, how do we move it? We'd subtract 4x from both sides. And then we'd bring down 3y. We would bring down the equals. And then these two do not combine. You cannot put a constant with a variable. So I told you guys just always write the x term first, so like negative 4x, and then the 12's positive, so you'd put plus 12. That was step 1. What was step 2 to get that y by itself? Divide by what? And we would do this, right? We divided every single term by 3. I know it's been a while since we've done this, but we all did this. Okay, this right here, this is the term that gives us our slope. So I told you, you have to leave it as a fraction. Will 4/3 reduce at all? No, they don't have anything in common except for the number 1, so you just leave it negative 4/3 x. And then right here, you have a positive 12 divided by positive 3. Which is positive 4. Okay, so those were the steps that we took to turn standard form into slope-intercept form, and then we would graph it. And then today, you just learned your 4th way of graphing. That was by using the x and the y intercepts. So now you guys know 4 different ways that you can graph. Are there any questions before we end these notes? All right, then you guys can actually put those notes away, and then I'm going to pass out the review for the quiz.